The new Flat Rate Podcast.
The new Flat Rate!
For contractors ready to boost tickets, simplify business, and gain freedom. Today we sat down with Teddy Slack, the CEO of Modern Contractor. And now your host, me, Natalie Koop, and your co-host, Danielle Putnam.
Hey there, I'm Natalie Koop, host of the New Flat Rate Podcast.
I'm Danielle Putnam, CEO of the New Flat Rate, and we're excited to welcome Teddy Slack with us today.
He is the CEO of Modern Contractor. Teddy, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm really excited to go through this with you guys.
And I want to jump right into it. I know you wanted to talk about flat rate pricing with the oil tank service business. Can you explain how switching to flat rate changed the oil tank service business for you?
Sure, absolutely. This is a topic I'm very, very passionate about because this was a process I went through back in roughly around, I guess, 2018, 2019. And at the time, I had partners in the business and they were completely against this. And I don't know where I read it. I started educating myself back at that time. And I was running companies for about 15 years before this. And I never really, understood or really read anything about flat rate. And in my industry, in environmental space, when I was in that space, the way it worked was there was two main services. So you had oil tank removals where we would go for homes in New Jersey where they're heating their house with heating oil, and we would pull the oil tank out of the ground. And that job was roughly about 12 to 1,500 bucks. And then if it leaked, which a lot of them did, they could go from anywhere from 8,000 to six figures, depending on how extensive the leak was. So what I kept hearing and I was in the industry for 15 years, all of my clients would say to me, you just give me a price. I just want to know how much this is going to cost. And I'm like, sorry, it doesn't work that way. There's too many unknowns, right? If we're working underground, we don't know how big your tank is. We don't know how much oil's in it or water, because sometimes you couldn't get access to them. So we don't know if it's under concrete. So there's all these unknowns. And then, the way it worked for the removals is it would be a starting price of 1,200, and then it would go up from there. It would be line items. It would say, well, if it's this size tank, it's this much per gallon. If it's under concrete, it's this much. Its permits are this much. Boom, boom, boom. So you had all these extras. So you give quotes for 1,200, but the final invoice, it could be 2,500, 3,000. So now the homeowners would get angry because they're like, oh my gosh, you gave me a quote because they only look at the one number. They're like, I looked at they don't read the whole contract, right? So they're looking at 1,200. That's what they're expecting to pay. Now you finish a job, it's a one-day job, and you hand them an invoice for 2,500, 3,000. They're now angry. So if the tank does leak, they're not going to even want to hire you to do the next phase. So it was this whole thing. And I'm like, I need to solve this problem. Like, this is an issue. So what I did is I decided to go back essentially 90 to 120 days. I looked at every single job I did. I put it into a spreadsheet and I said, okay, I did 1,200, and then this one was an additional 300, and then this one was 500. And I came up with an average number. And I said, well, on average, over the past 100 days, we added 300 bucks on average in extras. So what I'm going to do is, instead of 1,200, I'm going to go 1,500 bucks. It's flat rate. So now when the customer would call, I would say, yeah, we do a tank removal, no problem. It's 1,500 bucks. And that includes absolutely everything. And people's minds were blown. They're like, wait, what, permits? And I'm like, yes. And I'm like, go find another contractor who's doing it. Nobody in the industry is doing it. Now, my competitors hated me. They thought I was going to go out of business. They're like, this guy's going to go out of business. He can't get away with this. How are you not charging for a permit? And my partners at the time thought the same thing. I mean, he was old school and he was like, we can't do this. I've been doing this for 40 years. You can't price things. We're going to lose money. But if you actually run the numbers on it, what happened was our closing rate went from about 45% to almost 75%. So now, because we got more tank removals, we were finding more tanks that leaked. Now we were finding more remediation jobs, which were big, $10,000 to $100,000 jobs. We were finding more of them, which our revenue just went through the roof. At that time, we were around 2 million in revenue. Within 12 months, we were at 4 million in revenue because of this change in flat rate pricing.
Wow. Okay. I love how you looked at the numbers. You went back and you looked at the data and at the numbers and you just averaged it out. That although that can be very overwhelming to some people. How do we do this? How do we make this shift? But you were confident because you looked at the numbers. You're like, hey, the numbers aren't lying. Let's just start with an average, which sounds like a nice, simple way. And what a win. And I like how you were able to say that you found all the remediation jobs as well. So can you talk just a little bit to the scripting in that, the conversation, going back to those customers?
Yeah, so once I figured this out, and again, the big key here is the closing percentage. So you have to track all these KPIs because if you're not tracking these things, you're not going to know if it's working, if it's not working. And you know what? Some jobs we probably did lose money. And this is what
Yep.
I would explain to my partner. Yeah, we might have taken a $300 loss on this job, but so what? Look at the overall picture. Look at our P&L on a monthly basis. Look at our closing percentage. It went from 45 to 70, 75%.
Oh
How
yeah.
many more jobs are we bringing in? And then yes, we would come into these jobs that now were leaking. So what I did was because it was going so well with the removals, I'm like, now I have to figure out how do I do a flat rate pricing for remediations, which again, this is like unheard of. Nobody's ever done it in the entire industry. So I come from a family who was in the environmental industry, but they were in the commercial environmental work. So they did big jobs, big, corporate jobs. And they had what's called a soil delineation service. Now, this service was about $4,500 to go out there on a big commercial. So if you're buying a big office building and you want to do environmental investigation, you're going to spend $4,500. It's not that much money on a due diligence. But for a homeowner, nobody's going to spend that. If you're going to go buy a house, they're not going to spend 4,500 to find out if you're leaking or not. So what I did is I said, all right, well, I'm going to go buy the equipment, which was about 100,000. I'm going to buy that piece of equipment, and I'm going to basically just tear apart everything that is included in that 4,500. In there, they had all kinds of sampling, reporting, all these things that weren't really necessary for me to figure out how much contamination you had. And I just basically just dragged it all the way back down to just the piece of equipment and my guy. How much was this going to cost for me to send this piece of equipment out there? And it was $600, basically my cost. And I said, would you now as a homeowner pay $600 to get a fixed price for your remediation? Everybody said yes. They were like, absolutely. Because now instead of like me coming to you and say, well, it starts at 8 grand, sign this contract. And by the time I'm done, I might give you an invoice for 45,000 or 50,000. And that could happen in a day. I don't know until I start digging. That's very scary for a homeowner.
Yes.
So I came in and I say, hey, for $600, I'll come out and spend a half a day on your property. I'm going to drill around and I'm going to tell you exactly what it's going to cost. It'll be a flat rate, and I don't care if I'm wrong or anything. I guarantee you your clean bill of health from the state. And those prices would range. They'd be as low as 9,000, and they could be into six figures. I had the highest one was like 165,000, but it was a flat rate, and it wouldn't adjust. And the majority of them were about 15, 16 grand. That's what I would say 80% of them came in around there. And for us, it was great because now I would go in there and obviously we want to get this property as clean as possible for as least amount of work, right? Because we don't want to have this thing balloon. We want to get it clean, and we would go in there and our profits and margins went through the roof. And that's why I was able to basically get it to about 43% EBITDA when I sold that business.
Yeah. So you got paid for the discovery time and nobody else was doing that.
Nobody. Yep. Nobody was doing it. I mean, now these guys, the competitors came out with these like, and I call them bait and switches, right? Because they promote that it's flat rate on their site, but if you actually read their contract, it's not really flat rate. It's flat rate up to a certain amount of tonnage. So they're now promoting it in marketing. Oh, we have flat rate just like this other company, blah, blah, blah. But when you take out their contracts and you read it, it only included a certain tonnage where our contract was unlimited tonnage. So
Mhm.
literally we guaranteed you a clean piece of property for the price we quoted you. And nobody still to this day is not offering anything like that because they think it's too risky. And it changed our business around completely. And, was the main reason why we were as profitable as we were.
Yeah, really cool. I just love that you looked at your pricing, you looked at the numbers, and like you said, not to reiterate it too many times, but that closing rate is so key. When you can know
Yes.
what the closing rate is today, and we ask contractors every day, so what is your closing rate? What is the no-show rate? How many calls are you going on? Or not in the no-show, I'm sorry, like the diagnostic fee only and the $0, right? Like what are these? We have to know that base point so that we can set our goal and start moving for improvement. And
Yep.
that's tremendous. But it's the business that you already have, so we can talk about that all day. What do you have next for us?
So I wanted to switch it over and into more of your knowledge of helping contractors out. What did you see was the biggest roadblock for contractors trying to grow profitability?
The number one thing is pricing. It just really does come down to they're just not pricing right. They don't know, they don't understand gross profits, true profitability. I find a lot of guys are either underpaying themselves or they're overpaying themselves. So their profit margins on their P&L are not accurate because they're like, oh, my accountant gave me my P&L. This is what it is. I look at it, I start tearing it apart. I'm like, no, this is not accurate. You're actually not paying yourself the right rate and you're way too involved in the day to day. So you have to add this back as if you were going to hire somebody because a lot of guys, and I did this too for the first 15 years. I was involved with every aspect of my business. I operated heavy equipment. I would go drive a dump truck. I would be on the field doing sales. Then I would go back and do the accounting. And I'm thinking I'm making all this money. I'm look how profitable I am. Well, not really, because if I, God forbid, something happened to me, this business is gone because it depends too much on me. So if I have to hire people to do these tasks, well, if I have to pay for that, what is the true profitability then? So you got to really kind of come to a true number on profitability and then work from there as far as pricing, right? Because then you could start saying, okay, well, we're definitely not charging enough because I don't have enough gross profit to cover for these employees to bring on to take care of these tasks. So
Yeah,
that's
because you're
one of the
pricing
biggest
as
things.
if you're pricing for the growth.
Yes, you correct. Yeah, you have to price as if because if you're pricing off, yeah, you could run it like that, but that's not really a true business, right? And again, if something happens to you, all that money goes away. So I always tell my people, you got to think about not only yourself, think about your family, think about your employees, because if something happens to you, this business is going away tomorrow, the way that it's structured. So we have to get you out of the day to day. And that's not saying you don't be involved in your business, but don't let it depend on you specifically. You should be involved with overseeing every part of the business, sales, operations, marketing, finance. You should absolutely be involved with oversight. But if it's depending on you to do those things, your business could potentially be in a lot of trouble if something happens to you.
Teddy, looking at your resume, your background, the companies that you've built, and what you've done, correct me if I'm wrong, it almost looks like you went from, hey, I'm going to invest in businesses to, wait a minute, I'm not only going to invest, I'm going to make this switch. Now I'm going to invest and take equity and be a part of it and help you grow and exit quicker. Because you can invest in a company or you can actually be a part of it and implement what you know to be true and grow it faster. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, so I've done a little bit of both. I mean, I started my own companies, bootstrapped. I was 100% owner. I've done that several times. I was part of a family business. I helped grow a division inside of a family business. And then, yeah, my last company that I sold, I partnered with somebody who's in the industry and I helped, grow that business to basically 43% EBITDA. Top line was about 4 million. So it wasn't a huge company, but it was very profitable. And we sold that business for 5 times multiple. And then after that, got into consulting. That's why I started Modern Contractor. I've done some consulting over the last couple of years, but recently, just in the last 2 months, I've decided to move forward and get into the roofing industry, starting a brand new residential roofing business in New Jersey.
Very cool. And when did you start this year?
Yeah, so I just literally just got the LLC, just got the bank account this week, so it's very new. And I'm actually going to be documenting the entire process on my channel. So I'm going to help other entrepreneurs that are looking to bootstrap because I know there's a lot of content out there right now about, go get an SBA loan, go buy a business, blah blah blah. There's a lot of those guys out there that teach that stuff, which is great and it could work, but you're taking on a massive risk, and it's not the only option. You can bootstrap a company, especially in the service business, for very little money. I mean, my first business I started with 8 grand, and I needed hundreds of thousands of dollars in heavy equipment. I needed specialized licenses, and I did that with $8,000. So, it's possible. And that's kind of what I want to document to show people what the opportunity is.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, I love that. And what I also really love about your career path and just you as an entrepreneur is the short-term wins. And I know it might not feel like short terms, but you work with a business and you're like, hey, we can grow this, we can sell it, we can do another one, we can do another one, we can do another one, we
Yep.
can do another one. And there's a lot, some people say there's a whole lot more money to be made in that model versus the hold for a hope of an exit.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, what I've learned is if you start from the beginning with the end in mind, and you start building for valuation purposes as opposed to lifestyle purposes, which I did that for the first 15 years. I grew top line revenue and chased the top line, for the most money I can make. And at the end of the day, I didn't make as much as I could have if I focused on the profits and the value of the business. And that's what I learned when I started educating myself back in 2018. And yeah, absolutely. Now, even going into this roofing business, my plan, it's a 3 to 5 year plan, and I'm building it with the purpose of growing the value of the business, not taking money out for myself. Obviously, that's a goal as well. It's a for-profit business, but ultimately, I want to be able to build the value of that company. So I have the option in 3 to 5 years. If I get a great offer from, a private equity company and I get a nice multiple, I'll exit. If I don't want to exit, but at least I have that option in 3 to 5 years, which is nice.
Yeah, I really do like that. Teddy, what kind of a support system do you have, like family, friends, community, if you don't mind sharing? Because surely what you do, not everybody can do that.
So you'll probably be shocked with most people when I tell them this. I have 7 children in the house.
You're joking.
Yes. Yes, I have 7 kids. It's my fiance and I.
I actually am shocked.
See,
Expected
most
to
people,
say.
I get that same reaction. They're like 7 children. Like what? Yeah, so I have 7 children. My fiance and I we're blended. So we're like the modern day Brady Bunch. She has 3 boys. I have 3 girls, and we combine them, and now we have one of her own, a brand new baby. She's about 5 months old.
Congratulations. I hear often those new babies really become the glue
Yes,
that
yes,
holds
yeah.
everybody together. I hear it's just an incredible thing when you blend a family and then you have a baby, it's like the glue.
It's honestly it's a blessing to see it happen because all the kids they're so in love with her, and it is has brought the family closer. It's been a really wonderful ride here. But yeah, she's my support system. She's also an entrepreneur. She owns a hair salon. But I
Mm.
would say if anybody, she's my biggest support system for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. So then she's an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. Do you work from home or do you go to an office every day?
So right now, currently, I work from home. So I sold my last business in 2022. Back then, I was the guy for the first 15 years of my career. I was leave at 6 in the morning, getting home till 6, 7 o'clock at night. And I didn't get to spend a lot of time with my kids as they were really young. But after I learned about running businesses and building for value purposes and learning that the number one driver is getting yourself out of the day to day. And that's what I did back in like 2020, got myself out of day to day. And it was really a blessing because you fall back in love with your company again because you get to see like, hey, you know what? This is can generate profit and it doesn't rely on me. And I was still involved. I still watched over the business, still watched the KPIs. I still mentored the employees and, I was always accessible for them, but basically remotely, I was able to do that starting around 2020, 2021.
Really cool. And then this new roofing business you're starting right now, you're starting it out of your home.
So I have an office. I did get an office. The main reason I got an office is for the Google business page. You
Okay.
have to have an actual location, how it works with Google. So they don't really rank service area businesses well. So one of my strategies is optimizing the Google business page. So you need a location. So I got a starter office space essentially for that. And it's in a decent locations next to where my kids are at high school. So it's kind of close to where they'll be. But yeah, so I'll start there, but the same thing. My intention is within the first 12 months, I'm going to get myself out of the day to day. So initially, I'll do everything. I'll do the sales, I'll do the administration work, I'll do the financing, the bookkeeping. I'll do it all, and I don't mind that. But I have to be able to do that in order to build out the processes so I can hand it off to whoever I decide to bring on my team. But hopefully within 12 months, I'll be completely out of the day to day. That's the goal.
Yeah, this is gold what you're sharing. And so that's why I'm asking along, the questions along this line. I really appreciate what you're sharing right now because this is helpful for so many. Um, you're doing it yourself, but because it is a trade, it is roofing. Are you going to actually be doing roofing work yourself too, or will you're going to hire that out?
Yes, yeah. So
Benny?
the one of the things I learned when I was doing the consulting over the last couple of years, I consulted with a couple different roofing companies, and I found that the roofing industry. So I came from the environmental industry, so a lot of oversight, a lot of red tape. There was state involvement. You need specialized licenses. Every job needed a 300-page report.
Oh,
In that report, it needed every vendor invoice. You need so much evidence you had to put into these reports and then submit it to the state. You need to go to the soil that when I had to dispose of it had to go to a specialized licensed facility. You need a special license for your truck to move that stuff. It was very, how can I suppose this? Very difficult to operate, but I didn't know that. So I grew up in that industry. My family is in the same industry. So that's all I knew, you know what I mean? But then when I started consulting and I started learning about these other business models, I found out that, wow, in roofing in New Jersey specifically, it's different in other states, but in New Jersey, you don't need a permit, no inspection. There's no reports to the state or anything like that. It's literally sales, it's marketing, sales, and fulfillment. It's three main objectives. And if you could really just key those in and you do those well, you could do really well in the business. And it's high ticket. I mean, it's average ticket in New Jersey is about 20,000 for a roof.
oh yeah. No, I like that. This is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm excited about it because I'm recording a weekly. I'm not going to post it probably for about 6 months out, but I'm now recording, basically just talking heads at this point, and then I'm bringing on a full-time videographer that'll be following me around once I start getting work. Right now, I'm just waiting on the home improvement contractor's license. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks. Once that's approved, I'll be ready to start rocking and rolling. And yeah, I'll bring a videographer on. I'm going to kind of record the whole process, and it's going to be exciting to get that content out there and to help other people as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And I really am excited about how it will encourage so many other people is that, no matter how you start and how you can grow and you're doing it. So this is cool.
And I wanted to move over into Biz Score. Can you tell us more about it and how it helps service businesses plug profit leaks?
Absolutely, yeah. So I created this. Basically, it's an AI software where it will evaluate your P&L. It'll evaluate how much you are involved in your business. It'll basically ask you, how much are you in operations, how much time you spend in marketing, and it spits out a score from 0 to 10, and it lets you know how you score, 10 being the best. And basically, it'll give recommendations on, okay, well, you're too involved and you're not paying yourself the right rate, or you're paying yourself too much, because it'll compare what you're paying yourself to the market rate. So, for example, if you spend 50% of your time in sales and 25% in finance and another 25% in operations, or whatever the case may be, it'll basically look at all that and then compare it to the market in your market area and say, okay, well, somebody in this role should get paid 100,000, so that's 50,000 is going to, so it makes all those calculations automatically, and then it'll make recommendations on how to fix that, and basically how to improve your profitability of your business. So for my consulting business, basically what I do is if anybody's interested in getting a biz score, it's free. I will run your P&L through it, and then we can hop on a call. There's no charge for it. It's basically a free consulting, time and a report, and just to initially get on the call, see if I could be of any assistance. That's kind of what I've done over the last couple of years, and I enjoy consulting. I really do. But just getting involved and getting back into the game of business and entrepreneurship is exciting to me. That's why I decided to jump back into the roofing industry, which actually I wanted to talk to you guys about, because what I did in the environmental business, I'm actually going to try to implement this in roofing, try to come up with flat rate pricing, because what I found in the industry is these guys play similar games where there is a lot of unknowns. So in all fairness, same thing like the environmental business, there are a lot of unknowns. But my theory is, well, if I could solve for those unknowns and make it simpler for the homeowner so they could make the decision to hire me, because there's no extras, I don't care what I find. And I'm going to basically, my idea is to go out there, do my inspection on the roof, and then give them a flat rate. I don't care if, listen, my inspection's off. If I thought I only had to replace 10 boards underneath and I had to replace the entire house, the whole board, like the whole underboards, well, that's all going to be included in my price. So I'm going to be doing a flat rate pricing in the roofing space too. And I'm interested to see how that is looked at from the homeowner's perspective, because again, no one else, I don't believe, is offering it. I haven't come across anybody that's offering anything like it.
Yeah, I think that that's really neat. I like that you're approaching it like that. So we, the new flat rate today, we've got pricing modules, we call them, we're an app. And so we've got pricing modules, price books for heating and air, electrical, and plumbing primarily. Those are our top three. But we got into indoor air quality, I don't know, a handful of years ago, because majority of our HVAC guys were saying, hey, can we make money with indoor air quality? Can we use that during slow season, shoulder seasons? Would that be a good avenue for us to start doing add-ons in? Because they already have the talent, they have, the equipment, materials, or at least some of them, and they have the leads, and they find things when they're in the home. So would it be an easy add-on for indoor air quality? And so we actually wrote a price book for indoor air quality. But the question that took the time to figure out was what you said with the remediation, the discovery phase. How do you get paid for the discovery? Because so many of these contractors will show up on site, and we know that there's, the home is making them sick, but we don't know why. And so you
Yeah.
might spend hours and hours and days diagnosing, trying to find the problem in that home, and not get paid until you create the proposal, if the customer
Oh,
accepts the
wow.
proposal
Yeah.
and you do the work, right? And so what we did in this price book, in this module, is figured out a way to have a menu of price points for the discovery phase of, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I understand your home's making you sick. Don't worry. We're going to find this problem. Now, how far would you like me to go? And so we would show a menu um, based on, whether we've got different, it could be, oh gosh, I could pull up the app, but whether it was like attic or crawl space or different areas that they were working on. And it's, how far would you like us to go? So the menu is, hey, I want you to, spend a couple hours, spend a day. I want you to, do this, do that. The top option was like a whole week of diagnosis and monitoring and all kinds of stuff. And so the customer would choose right away how important this was to them, how much they
Yep.
actually, how far they wanted you to go. And so using this, they were getting paid for this discovery time. And then once the problem was identified, all right, let's look at a menu of prices so that you can choose the level of service that you want to take care of this problem for you. And so that was really neat to watch. And of course, that's what you did too. So with roofing, this will be fun to watch you do that. We believe
Yep.
very strongly in the power of the menu. And so instead of one price point, which is flat rate, which is awesome, I love what you're doing here, is how can you do a good, better, best? And
Yes. Yep.
so we've got our good, better, best. And then the top two, so we do 5 price points. The top two, Teddy, isn't more stuff. It's how do you get paid for your expertise, your skill, your team, all these years of entrepreneurship that you have, the knowing of how to keep the customer's
Yep.
home safe and to make sure they have the right crew, the right, the materials, everything that you're going to need. So how do you get paid for that expertise? That's in the top levels. And so that's what we love about start with the flat rate for sure. And then when you can build upon that, it gives the homeowner an opportunity to buy even more with you from you.
No, absolutely. And so I'll give you two examples of what I did in the environmental space. So I did exactly that. I came up with these ideas because, again, I'm trying to drive money to the bottom line because that's going to increase the value of your business. The more bottom line you have, the higher multiple you're going to get. So I came up with these ideas. Two of them that I came up with was, so one of the pain points was those 300-page reports I spoke about. Typical turnaround time in the industry is about 8 weeks from the time you finish the job. Now, majority of those people that were going through that process were selling their house because that's really the only time you're going to deal with it because you're forced to do it. Because if you want to sell your home in New Jersey, you have to deal with that oil tank because as soon as that homeowner buys it, it becomes their responsibility. So they want to push that off on you as a seller, which, rightfully so. So, but the problem is 8 weeks to get a report that holds up the closing. And most of these people, they're contacting us like, oh, we're closing in 2 weeks. Can you take out my oil tank? I'm like,
I'm
no, I
sure.
need a permit. I need a permit. It's a process. And then I was like, yeah, it's 8 weeks to get the report. And they would freak out. So I basically said, all right, well, I need to solve this. Once again, this is a pain point, and this is what I tell my clients: think of all your pain points that your clients are going through, and solve those problems, and then charge the right money for it. And that's exactly what I did. So I came up with a rush fee, and I basically what I did is I reached out to all my vendors. I said, what is the absolute fastest turnaround? I talked to the lab, I talked to my subsurface evaluator, everybody who was involved with getting me those reports, the disposal facility. And I said, I don't care if I have to pay you a little bit more money. I want to know what the absolute fastest turnaround time. I got it from 8 weeks down to literally 8 days. And then I charged my clients $1,000 for it, and it cost me about $100. So I made $900 on every client that took it. Not everyone took it because some people weren't in a rush, but the ones that did take it was another $900 right to the bottom line. And that was one service that I did. So the other services we offered soil sample guarantees, same thing. So I would go out there and I would drill around the oil tank, and everyone in the industry, they would give you results and say, yeah, your tank is clean. So hypothetically, you guys are buying a home, you hire me, I come out, I drill around the oil tank, and I tell you, hey, this tank is clean. Well, you buy that home and then you remove it after you buy it and it's contaminated. Well, you are responsible for cleaning it up. So that's a scary process, right? It's like, oh man, there's really no guarantee on here. You're telling me if the company messes up and tells me my tank is clean and then I buy that house, I am responsible. Yes, that's how it works in the space. So I'm like, that's not going to work for me. I'm like, I'm going to come up with a program. So I did, because I had that $100,000 piece of equipment that no one had. I knew that I was getting very accurate samples. I knew I was getting to the right depth, and I had accurate readings. And so I would go back to the client and said, hey, your results are clean. They're completely non-detect. I'm willing to offer you a 6-month guarantee on this as long as you remove your oil tank with me. So now I lock him into pulling the oil tank with me. I'm like, you do it within 6 months. If there's any issues, if it fails the inspection and I have to do it in remediation, I will cover 100% of the cost. And I charged them $1,400 for that service. Well, there was no cost for me to do that, except, out of maybe 20 jobs I sold, I'd have to do a minor cleanup, which would cost me a couple $1,000. But if you do the math on it, I'm making 25, 30 grand, then it cost me 3,000 to do one cleanup. I mean, the numbers the math it just adds up. So again, all right to the bottom line. So you got to think outside the box, and you have to come up with these ideas that, again, no one else is offering it. So if they go to try to find this in the market, no one else is offering it. Who are they going to come back to? They're coming back to you because you're the only company that's offering this type of service.
Yeah. So more cash is coming in than is going out. And it's that simple.
Yep.
Cash coming in, cash going out. You've got more cash coming in than you have going out. I love how you went back to find out what is the fastest turnaround for these permits and this paperwork. Like, what a question. And so many people don't think to ask that. So as
It
an
was very basic. It's like, how did nobody think of this? Like, why everyone is just like, oh, this is industry standard. Well, why is it? You got to start questioning everything. Why is it industry standard? Why can't we improve it? Why
yeah,
can't we do something different? And again, you're an entrepreneur. You own this business. You're allowed to pretty much do anything you want within legal limits, right? I mean, you can make any offers you want. You can pretty much do anything you want. And I never really understood that in the first 15 years. I'm just like, well, this is what I was taught. This is the way it's always been done. This is the way my father taught me to do it. This is the way everyone else in the industry is doing it. But it doesn't have to be that way. You're allowed to do anything you want, really.
how you're looking for those extra things that you can charge for. but so many contractors are not doing an emergency service fee. So they're going out on
Yes. Yeah.
weekends, they're going out after hours at night, they're burning out their technicians. And just by offering that emergency service fee, you're giving the customer the choice. You're not gouging your customer. You're saying, hey, we'd be happy to come out at 7 o'clock tonight, but there is an emergency after hours fee. Would you like to go ahead and schedule this afternoon, or can you wait till tomorrow? And so many
Yep.
times they will say, oh, tomorrow's fine. It's just
Yeah.
communication. Or
Yes.
say, I'm happy to pay. It's
Yep.
just communication. So we're giving away all of our profit and all of our money because we don't want to have conversations.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you got to pay those guys overtime. So it's rightfully so. I mean, and you got guys on standby and it's an emergency. I mean, so I had an emergency response business. So I know this very well. I mean, we did emergency response work in the environmental space. When tractor trailer would flip over, I'd go out there and we would do the cleanups. So I knew all about that. You have to charge for that. I mean, absolutely. I mean, you got guys sitting around waiting for those calls to come in or whatever. You got to charge a premium for that.
You do. Charge what you're worth.
Yep, absolutely.
Before we wrap it up, where can people find you? Where are your socials, and where can people listen to your podcast, everything?
Yeah, sure. So Modern Contractor TV is actually on my personal YouTube channel. It's Teddy_Slack. And then also I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So Teddy_Slack, I believe, on LinkedIn as well. If you just look up Teddy Slack or Modern Contractor TV, you should be able to find me on either YouTube or LinkedIn.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We're going to have everything linked below down in the description, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thanks for having me on. And this is a lot of fun.
If you want to learn more about the new flat rate, go to thenewflatrate.com. If you want to learn more about Modern Contractor TV, go to youtube.com/@TeddySlack. And if you want to connect with Teddy, go to his LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/TeddySlack.